Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Rydell, actor and now podcast host, I guess. That guy you've seen on a million TV shows and movies, but you still do not know my name.
And I'm David Allen Bache, actor and sometimes producer. And you also recognize me from lots of films and TV shows, but you probably couldn't name one of them right now if I paid you to.
The two of us and our guests are going to let you in on some secrets on how to make it as an actor and share some private stories from the many movies and TV shows that we've worked on.
That's right. We're going to interview a special guest each week, and we'll get their best advice and wisdom for you about how to break into this business and how to stay in it. And yes, again, there will be stories, stories, stories. So, let's get to it.
This is Confessions of a Working Actor. What's going on?
Chris, here we are again. Life is good. Life is good. I'm so happy that people have been digging the podcast so far, and these early episodes have been a ball, just a ball to do.
Really exciting. People are calling me, going to listen to this, or listen to that, listen to Richard Kind. I loved it.
Yeah, David DeLuise got a bunch of friends who were like, he was great. And
he's terrific.
We have a great guest today. I'm very excited about her. But you and I were talking earlier, and we both were thinking like, let's just talk for a minute about something that we've been watching, either television or film or theater or something we've been watching that actors would love. And we both came out with the exact same thing at the same time.
The Patient.
The Patient.
Wow. What really bothers me is that it's only 30 minutes. I got to wait for like another week. I'm so like...
And that's shorter. And that's shorter than my usual therapy sessions, which is,
Right. I mean, it should be 50 minutes,
It should be 50 minutes. And at the end, Steve Carell should say, well, we're out of time, right? I mean, that's, But, I mean, his performance and the young guy whose name escapes me...
Don Mel, I think.
Yeah.
Gleason.
Yeah. I mean,
he's terrific.
Two of them are fantastic. Just spectacular performances.
I'm just on the edge of my seat.
Yeah. And I want to say, watching Steve Carell, I've always liked him, great actor and very funny, but this is some of the best dramatic work he's ever done. And he's so still.
I agree.
And such a good listener. And of course, as a therapist, you would want him to be a good listener, but an actor might not necessarily do that. But he's listening so still. He's so still when he listens, and he's not trying to show us that he's listening. He's just really listening.
Less is more.
That's it. It's a great reminder for actors that less is more. Except in this case, where you're doing stand-up comedy, then more is more.
More is definitely more.
Yeah. And we have a little bit of a different focus today. We have an actor with us, certainly kind of classically trained actor. We'll talk about that in a minute. But our guest this week is Sonya Vai, and she is an actor and stand-up comedian. Sonya's done the New York Comedy Festival, which is, I think New York Times said was one of the top 5 shows to watch. She's featured for comedian Judah Friedlander. Crazy Woke Asians, a comedy show featuring Sonya and a few other funny Asian comedians, I guess. Had sold-out shows in L.A. at the world-famous Comedy Store, Comedy Chateau, the Ice House, the Laugh Factory. I mean, she's really been everywhere and done it all. And one of the hardest-working stand-up comedians I've ever met. Honestly, every time I want to see her, or my wife and I try to get together with her, she's like, I have a show. It's like, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 12, 1, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I have a show. And that's, that's how you get it done. That's Sonya giggling in the background. So, Chris, should we skip the rest of the intro, just get her in?
Let's do it. Let's just get her in here. Please welcome Sonya Vai.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Sonya.
Thank
welcome.
you so much for that intro. That was
welcome.
Really fun. So good to be here.
I love in some other intros of you on the worldwide interwebs. There's that you were born and raised in New York City, but you're constantly being asked where are you really from by drunk men in bars, and I love that. Did you write that line?
I did. That actually happened to me a lot in college, believe it or not. So much in college, because I guess I'm not white or black. And it just was this thing where they're just like, where are you really from? And at one point, I'm just like, my mom's vagina. Okay, that's where I'm really from, if you must know.
Okay. We're all from the same place.
Yeah,
the ratings just went up, everyone. The ratings on the podcast just went up. We said the word vagina, and the ratings went through the roof. And you said I'm not black or white, And rather than me say, what color are you? Which would be like the old school comic thing to do. I'll just also say another thing that I read that I think you may have written is that although you're of South Asian descent, you have a culturally diverse face and are often mistaken for a terrorist.
That used to happen all the time. It's great, though. There's a lot of work for terrorists in film and television. So
I love it.
That's probably right. It's probably more work for you guys, the terrorists.
Who knows? Who knows these
than
days?
For us.
Who knows? Chris and I are both stale, male, and pale. That's what they officially call us in the business now. But, we're doing okay. We're doing all right.
I think there's room for everybody.
I should think so.
I read that you had gone to the Stella Adler Conservatory.
I did. Yeah. I actually did the evening program because
and my son
working.
did the same.
He did?
My son went there like 12 years ago, and was in the evening program.
Yeah.
And my mother actually started the Stella Adler Conservatory with Stella.
Wow.
Joanne Linville. I don't know if you'd
Yes, I remember
her.
that name.
Yeah.
But that's incredible. I heard such great stories from the teachers. Like we had this one teacher, she told us about how, because I guess Marlon Brando was there too, and how Stella, he wasn't doing a great job in that particular role and during, in the classes or whatever. And then at one moment, I think she tells him to go out of the room and he comes back in and she's naked. Completely naked. And I was just like, way to go the extra mile to get the performance you want from the actor, from Marlon Brando of all people.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It was a great story.
I was lucky enough to take a couple classes with her in LA.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
I forgot to take my hat off. I was wearing a hat when I was introduced to her, and she never liked me. She never was nice to me after that. And she told my mother he didn't even take his hat off when he met me.
Wow.
I was like 17. I was like, what? Take my hat off? I didn't even realize I needed to take my hat off.
You got schooled.
I really did.
That's a great honor. To be schooled by Stella Adler.
I think I did the prologue from Henry V. And I was on stage, and she came up and like grabbed my hands and put them behind my back because I was like, my whole thing was like hands flying in the air. She was like, son, you don't need to use your hands so much. Make the words need to mean everything.
I had a director do that to me too.
Yeah.
He made me put my hands in my pockets, and then when I kept taking them out of my pockets, he got a broomstick, and I was hunched over. I was like trying to hide on stage, and so he got a broomstick, and it sounds like torture, but it wasn't. And he made me put my arms out, almost like a crucifixion, and he taped the broomstick to my wrists and my arms, and I had to walk around like Scarecrow. Yeah, I couldn't move my arms at all. And, and then at one point I started wandering with my feet, and he was like, ugh.
Like, this kid, where did he study?
What did they teach you at Emerson College? Jesus. So he got sandbags off some of the scenery and put them over my feet. He put them over my sneakers. He's like, don't move. Say the lines. Don't use your arms. Don't use your feet. And it was a great lesson. That was Lonnie Price. It was a great lesson.
It's not easy. It's not easy to do.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Sonya, we were talking about The Patient with Steve Carell and how still he is and how wonderful his performance is. And
I heard it's an amazing show, and I can't wait to check it out. I'm behind on my TV watching.
That's all right.
It'll take an hour and a half to get through the 3 episodes.
They're short.
Oh, that's great.
So you also took some classes and trained at Upright Citizens Brigade, which is world famous for improv and comedy.
I did improv classes there. And I think the thing I learned when I was at UBC is that I don't love improv. I've watched a lot of it too, and I think it can either be absolutely amazing or terrible. Like it's just there's no middle ground. And it's just not something. I just remember I would say no all the time. Like I wouldn't do the yes and. It's like no, and kill the entire scene. No. And that's when I learned that stand up is better because improv is yes and stand up is no but. And it was just more suited for me because I just have that, sarcasm, and I want to say no to everything. So stand-up just happened to be the thing that landed and worked for me. So
Well, that's great and great to know, because great for an actor to know, right? Great for anyone who's a performer to have a feeling of, oh, wait a minute, I'm drawn to this. Let me follow that, as opposed to struggling with what people in the business tell you should be doing. That's great advice. You may not have realized it, but sometimes you have to say no, but, and we always say, no, it's yes and, it's collaborative, it's yes and.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to follow your feelings about what part of this business you want to be in or what you want to do. And there's value to learning other aspects of it. But I respect that. No, but I respect that.
No, but. Yeah, it's true. Something just clicked. And it's, I haven't looked back since. So I really do love what I do. And I feel like this is my calling. And I love making people laugh. It's great to do that. And you can be the great thing about stand-up, I think, is you can be yourself, right? You are the writer of your story. So I get to write the words and then I get to play them out on stage, and it's a lot of fun. And there is, I think it's more similar to theater in the sense that you get the direct feedback.
How did you get started doing comedy?
Okay, so that's a great question. It was an accident, actually. It was So I moved to LA because I wanted to give acting a chance, like full time, right? So I'm doing all these like non-union short films, student films from USC, UCLA, and all those things. And I was very frustrated because after I think being there for a year or two, like I just wasn't getting the roles that I wanted. I wasn't getting good auditions, doing so many casting director workshops. And my neighbor was a stand-up, and I used to go to the Comedy Store to watch him. And one day I was just having a meltdown. Like, it was him and his roommate. He was a writer at AFC at the time. And I was just, I was bawling, and I was just like, I can't do this, And he's like, you should be a comedian. You should think about that. You're really funny. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm a thespian.
I'm classically trained.
And then he just kept saying it to me, and he was like, you're really funny. I don't think you know it. And I didn't, because in school, I wasn't the class clown. I was very shy, or I talked too much. Like, it was one or the other. And then he just said it so many times. And finally he said, I want you to take a class. Just take one acting class. And if you don't like it, I will pay for it. So I thought, okay, what do I have to lose, right? So I went and I took a class at Flappers, which is a comedy club in Burbank. And the second I got on stage, like, the mic was in my hand, and we're not even trying to be funny. We just had to talk about our day or something like that. And the class was cracking up, and it's just like something clicked. Like, I was like, oh, wow, this might be something. There might be something there. So, it was a complete surprise. Like, I didn't grow up watching stand-up. I grew up in an Indian home. My parents watched Indian movies. It was not something that I grew up with, which is the case for many comedians, I believe.
That immediate feedback is pretty nice.
Yes.
Being on stage,
I mean, you either live or die, right? But either way.
Right, but that's, this is life.
This is life, yeah.
Tell us about maybe your favorite experience on stage that you've had.
Wow.
And you've been all over. I mean, New York Comedy Club, Gotham, Carolines. I know you've done like national comedy tours, but am I right that you just got back from your first European comedy tour?
I did. It was incredible. I did comedy
awesome.
in London, Paris, and Barcelona. And It was great experience. I mean, London, of course, was the best because they're English-speaking country, so there's just more opportunity. But it was incredible, and you don't know how it's going to be, right? I wasn't sure, will my jokes translate? How is the culture of comedy similar there? I don't know, and I did it, and it was overwhelming in the beginning, but I loved it. And actually, one of my favorite shows that I did this year, at least, was in London. They have a comedy club there called the Top Secret Comedy Club, and it's sort of like the equivalent of the Comedy Cellar here.
Right.
But it's much bigger. Like they have 2 rooms, and the one room is 150 people. The downstairs is about 350. And, the guy didn't know me, and I had a referral, sort of a friend of mine, said, hey, give her some stage time. He only gave me 5 minutes the first day. He gave me 5 minutes upstairs and downstairs, but I crushed. And so then he had me back for 5 more days. And then I had proper spots, 2 spots a night. And it was incredible. Yeah, there was a moment, one of those shows, I was downstairs. It was a packed house, like 350 people. And it's just that energy, it's like I'm having a conversation almost. It's such an intimate, even though there were 350 people there, it felt so intimate because I'm talking and they're reacting. And it's magical, I think, when it really goes well. There's a magic that I feel. And the most recent place that happened was in London. So
that's great. That's bloody great. Now, here's a question. Here's a question, though. What happens when it doesn't go well, right? So we've talked to, most of the performers we talk to, we ask this question, and it may be a little bit of a different answer from you as a stand-up, which is part of why we were so interested in talking to you. So sometimes we ask, not sometimes, all the time we ask guests, did you ever want to give up? And did you ever have an experience that made you want to give up? And if you didn't, why not? So did you ever have a show that you just bombed so badly, or someone said something to you, or you were heckled so badly where you were like, I'm not getting back up on stage? And obviously you have, but do you have a memory about that?
Absolutely. There was a time where I was on stage and I got booed. It wasn't just silence. I literally got booed. And it shook me to my core.
Yeah.
But I was up there and I had to finish. I chose not to just stop and address them because I knew in that moment, like a lot of times comics may do that, but in that moment, I was so filled with negative emotion that I was like, if I stop, I'm just going to yell at these people and then I'm going to alienate the rest of the audience, right? And this was probably about 100 people in the room, and it was this one table where they were drunk and they were just heckling every single comic. And then by the time I got up there, at one point, they just started booing me. And I guess I got lucky because no one noticed when I got off stage. The other comedians didn't notice that I was a wreck up there, so that's good. And I think that only happened because of experience. I just plowed through my material and got off stage. And I remember I went into the bathroom and I almost started crying. I just ran into the bathroom and I was like, I don't even want to stay. I don't want to stay to the end of the show. I don't want to meet people. I don't want to say anything. And it just was this roller coaster where I was just high and then boom, I came so low. And I was just like, I should never do this again. This is not something but I do that all the time. Comics do that all the time. You have a bad set, you go home at night, you're like, yeah, I'm done. I'm retiring. And then you get up the next day and you do it again. So it's really, it's funny because I've quit this career, thousands of times. And yet.
We've heard that from other actors. We say, have you ever wanted to give up? And, I think it was Richard Kind who said, well, only every day.
Yes, exactly.
Twice a day. Yeah.
Yeah. So
all these experiences that you're having, you kind of need to have. You need to have that happen as a comedian. Next time it happens, you're okay. I can plow through my material. That happened to me before. Yeah. Tell us maybe something that you wish you had known when you started that you know now.
I wish I had known to trust myself more, because I think when I started, and I'm sure this is true for most performers, there's so many people who give you unsolicited advice. And when you're new, especially just being a woman in comedy, I had so many men tell me things like, you should smile more on stage, or you shouldn't be so mean, or don't do that impression of your father. It's hack, like things like that. And it gets to you when you're newer because you don't know what the rules are. And there really aren't any rules, right? There's one rule in comedy: make the audience laugh, be surprising and yet inevitable, right? That's the same thing with storytelling. And I think when I was, especially like my first couple of years in comedy, I just wanted to get it right, and that's who I was as a kid too. That's who I was growing up. Like I always wanted to get the A. I wanted to get right. I wanted to be the perfect student. And so when people gave me advice that was probably not great for me, I would just say, oh yeah, maybe I should do that. I should be better. Just having that need to want to please people. I think I had that a lot. And over the years, I've learned that you have to let that go, and it will never serve you if you try to please everyone, right? That there's a phrase, you try to please everyone, you please nobody, no one, or something like that. So yeah, that would be the advice I would give to any new comedian, is trust yourself. This is a process where, and if you do want to get advice, go to a place where you feel comfortable, where you respect maybe, the comedian, where if you're asking them a question and they give you an answer, you feel like, okay, that's somebody who's willing to help me. I think there are a lot of comedy coaches that might do that. If you have a mentor who's a comedian who's done well, who really cares about your career, not so much they just want to tell you what they want to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
That's great advice.
It is good advice.
There is only one Sonya Vai.
Yeah, exactly. There's only one. Thank God.
And thank God.
That's true.
And by the way, I loved your impersonation of your father.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love it too.
I do
but
too.
I had to grow to love it, because I remember once some comedian told me it was hack, and it stayed in my head for a year or two. So that's the thing, is people will give you advice. You just have to not take it.
Yeah, you got to know when to take it, when not to take it. That's right.
Exactly.
And consider the source, right? Is it coming from someone who works a lot? Is it coming from someone who doesn't work and who's the same type as you and wishes they were working more and you're working more, right? There's some jealousy in our business sometimes. You never know. Yeah. And that's actually a good segue into the next question, which is, as I mentioned, for all the time I've known you, you work incredibly hard at your craft, and I respect it immensely. And so what does it mean to you to be a working actor, to be a working performer, to be a working stand-up? What does that phrase mean to you?
I mean, that's a really great question. I think for me, it's my process is I just sort of throw myself into it, and then I just do. Because if I don't, let's say, you talk about how many shows I do, and it's like I almost feel like if I don't do it, I'm not a working comedian, which is not true, right? And to be honest, I've been doing this for a long time, and this summer was the first summer where I actually took some time off. And it was so hard because I just felt conflicted. Am I a comedian if I'm not getting on stage every night? And I've finally come to the place now in my career where I was like, yes, I am. I'm funny. I don't question it anymore. I think you question it for so long. Even as a comedian, I'm sure people question it for we can question it for our entire careers. But I really needed a break when I got back from Europe. I had just been going and going and going, and I finally decided just to take, a month off, right? That's it, just 1 month. And it was the first few days, I was like, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was just like, why am I not at a club? It was foreign to me to be out on a Friday night and not be working. And I remember going out to dinner with friends, and I was like, oh, this is what normal people do.
Civilians, that's right.
Civilians. And I was like, I'd rather be at a club right now, but I need this time off. So.
I have trouble with vacation sometimes. My wife and I are both actors, and on occasion, if we have a planned vacation, but I haven't been working before that vacation, I beat up on myself. I'm like, am I allowed to take a vacation? Shouldn't I be honing my craft, reading more scripts, doing more auditions? Shouldn't I, why should I relax? If I relax, will it get away from me? That kind of thing. I really relate to that. And I also relate to the fact that that's simply not true. That in all the years I've been doing this, when I do take a vacation, when I do have some self-care, when I do put everything away for, a day, a week, a month if I'm lucky, but I'm better for it and I'm stronger for it, and I have perspective and calm and peace and energy, and I come back better. So that's good for people to hear. Even someone who works as hard as you manages to take a little time off. So
I know your wife very well, Alicia, and she works very hard, and so do you. So I look up to you. I feel like I really do. I get my work ethic a little bit from you guys. You guys are pretty incredible. But it's what you said before. Sometimes less is more, right?
Yep. But not the compliment you just gave me. We got that on tape, right, Chris? We got that.
Yeah, we did get that on tape. Sonya, we were talking about, being able to work as much as you do. As a comedian, you get to go on stage every day. Every night you're working your craft in a way. And as an actor, that doesn't happen that often. Being that you get as much time on stage, maybe you could share with our listeners like a positive experience that happened either at a club, on a set, something with another actor, a director, another comedian that you see as a positive life experience.
So that's another great question. A lot of the times, the best experience for me at a club, aside from performing, is getting to work with other comedians who are more seasoned. And, sometimes in that green room, you never know what the atmosphere is going to be like. Sometimes a comedian will walk in and they just don't want to talk to anyone, because they're so much better than everyone else. But then sometimes you'll meet a comedian or two who are they're really friendly and open to questions. And I mean, we all get starstruck in our own way, right? Like I'm not talking about big stars here, but just comedians that I really respect. Like there's one I love. Her name's Laurie Kilmartin, and I've had the fortune of working with her. But I remember I've been in a green room with her a few times, and just the conversations we've had are they were great experiences for me. And it was just talking to her, right? Like one person to another, a little bit about comedy, but then also about just life. And I think those are the experiences that people don't get to see, that only happen between comedians that are in a green room or in a setting where if you're on the road together, things like that. And I really love those moments a lot.
That's great. I love to hear that. And it reminds me, I grew up across the street from Mitzi Shore and Paul.
Wow.
So my childhood was spent at the Comedy Store.
Incredible.
Like in her office, peeking through her little peephole that she had that looked down on the stage. My best friend was Peter Shore, who was Paulie's older brother. And that house was just, it was amazing. You'd wake up, Saturday morning to like watch cartoons and like Sam Kinison, and like, it's like everybody's there hanging out.
Hey, kid, what are you watching, kid?
Yeah, exactly. It was nuts. And what I saw was the camaraderie of these comedians, because we were too young, pretty much, to go into the belly room or to whatever. We didn't really get to it, but we could peek in And I always, it was just something that I saw that I felt as a kid. It was like that these people really, they loved each other. It was something they all did. And it was like they all experienced, that feeling of going on stage and either like, killing or dying, and it's like going to war, Yeah.
And Sonya, that's a good reason to ask you this next question. We have two special segments that we do. And one of them, Chris brought up the experience that everybody has, right? Everybody has the experience. We're all doing it. We love each other because we're all up there doing it. So one of the questions we ask, because all actors, all performers have gone through it, we heard about a performance where you were booed, but we always ask for people's worst audition story ever.
Gosh.
And it could be an audition, I know you've done some TV work and some stage work and Shakespeare and everything in between, but it could be an audition that you had for a TV show. It could be with a casting person, but it could also be you had to show somebody at a club, a 2-minute set, or you had to prove yourself. Like, give us something that, the other actors are going to listen to and say like, oh man, if she got through that, I can get through mine.
This one is crazy, and I will never forget this audition, but it was in New York, and it was for some off-Broadway play, right? And I think they gave us sides and we had to perform. But then at one point, I remember there was another audition. I was alone with the director in a theater, right?
Oh, shit.
He asks me to to take off my shoes and show him my feet. I can't even, I don't. And
wow.
I was so young that I was like, somehow this feels worse than taking off my clothes, right? There was something so...
Oh. Wow.
I will never forget that.
That's unbelievable. Your feet.
My feet, of all things.
Yeah, of all things.
But I will tell you, he told me I had beautiful feet. So I don't know. I don't know why I'm not bigger in this business, guys. I don't know why.
Your feet are huge in Paris.
They're amazing. Yeah.
That's right. I love it. That's a good one. Everybody beware. It's not just take off your top or anything else. We know all the sexism in this business, and it's disgusting. But watch out for the shoes. Apparently, all right.
Exactly.
All right.
How do you forget that? Right? I'll never forget that.
I'm not sure if when I see you in person next, I'll be able to forget that. That's
right. So let's see him.
Exactly. No.
That's right. Well, we can't hear them.
One and done, right?
Yeah,
one and done. Exactly.
Yeah, we can't hear them.
Yeah.
Well, Sonya, we usually end each segment, and we are kind of coming to the end, with a best piece of advice question we ask all our guests. Hopefully, maybe you could leave our listeners with a best piece of advice. Maybe for a comedian, for an actor, for a human in life, whatever you want to share.
A lot of times I have younger comedians come to me and ask me for advice. And I feel so blessed and honored when people do that, because it's such a nice thing for them to think, oh, well, they care about my opinion, about comedy. But the first thing I say is, if you can do anything else and be happy, do it. It's true. I think choosing to be a comedian, especially even as an actor, as a comedian, as a performer, you are choosing such a difficult life. And I think knowing that in theory and knowing that in reality are two different things. And if you can be happy in anything else, why not, right? It's a more steady life. It's not a roller coaster. It's just not for everybody. That's my first piece of advice. And then once I say that to the comedian, they're like, okay, fine. What else, right? And then my next piece of advice is just keep going, right? Keep going. That's how you get better. You practice, that deliberate practice, getting the feedback, working on your craft, and keep going as long as you can. So either don't do it or keep going. Those are my two pieces of advice.
I like that. I'm writing that down. Just keep going.
Don't do it or don't give up.
That's great.
That's good.
Yes. Don't do it or don't give up. Yeah.
I love it.
I love it. Fantastic. I think we're going to wrap up. And Sonya, it's been great to have you on. And again, I want to say thank you, because as the podcast expands, we'll be talking to television writer and showrunner in a few episodes. We have some directors that are going to come on. Chris and I were talking about trying to have some casting folks on. And so to have someone who's not only a great actor, but a great stand-up comedian, I think will give listeners another kind of an interesting perspective. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for having me on. I love it. I love the episodes that I've heard so far, and I can't wait to hear more.
Thank you, Sonya Vai. Well, it's been another great 20 minutes with you, my friend.
And you too, brother. It's been fun.
Yeah, that was great.
Cool. I thought that was awesome. All right, star that.
That was terrific.
And we got another great guest coming up next week, so be sure to tune in again to Confessions of a Working Actor.